A 7-day reset for fatty liver. The one daily habit that may matter more than diet. Most people hear fatty liver and think one thing first: food, sugar, fried food, late night eating, processed snacks. And that makes sense because diet absolutely matters. NIDDK says treatment for NAFLD, now also called MASLD, centers on regular physical activity, healthy eating and weight loss. But this is where the story gets more interesting than most people expect. Exercise is now treated as a cornerstone of MASLD management, and recent reviews say it can reduce liver fat and improve metabolic markers even independent of weight loss. That means the medically honest version of this title is not forget diet. It is this: if you want one daily habit that can start shifting the fatty liver environment fast, daily brisk walking may matter more than most people realize. MASLD affects roughly 25% to more than 30% of the global population, is often silent, and is tightly linked to insulin resistance, obesity, and metabolic risk. So if you want a 7-day reset, the best fit daily habit is simple: walk briskly every day for about 20 to 30 minutes. Not because 7 days will cure fatty liver, it won't, but because this is one of the cleanest ways to interrupt the exact metabolic pattern that keeps liver fat building in the first place. Guidance and clinical sources commonly point to about 150 to 200 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week for fatty liver, which works out to roughly 20 to 30 minutes a day. And before you move past that because it sounds too basic, stay with me. Because the reason walking matters is not just calories. In fact, that is where most people get the entire fatty liver conversation wrong. The liver does not only care about how much you ate, it cares about what your body is doing with glucose, insulin, fat trafficking, and inactivity all day long. Exercise-based reviews show improvements in hepatic fat content, liver enzymes, insulin resistance, and cardiometabolic function in people with MASLD. This is where people get fooled. They assume that if the scale does not move, nothing meaningful is happening in the liver. But one of the most important things in the modern MASLD literature is that exercise can help without needing major weight loss first. A 2024 updated perspective on exercise in steatotic liver disease describes exercise as a cornerstone of management and notes benefits independent of weight loss, including reducing liver fat and improving inflammatory biomarkers and cardiovascular health. That sounds small, but it matters, because it changes the psychology of the whole problem. If someone thinks the only way to help fatty liver is to lose a dramatic amount of weight first, they often get stuck. But if one daily habit can begin improving the liver fat environment before the body fully changes on the outside, that gives the person something much more powerful: a liver they can actually pull. Now, NIDDK's treatment guidance is clear, that regular physical activity is part of standard management, not an optional extra. Now let's talk about why this habit works. The first reason is insulin resistance. Fatty liver and insulin resistance feed each other. When muscles are inactive, the body becomes less efficient at pulling glucose out of the bloodstream. When that happens repeatedly, insulin stays high more easily, and the liver ends up handling more of the metabolic overflow. Exercise helps reverse that direction of travel by making muscles a better destination for glucose and by improving insulin sensitivity. Reviews and meta-analyses in MASLD consistently show exercise improves glucose metabolism and insulin resistance markers. The second reason is liver fat itself. This is the part most viewers will care about most. Exercise-based intervention studies in MASLD have shown reductions in hepatic fat content. And recent umbrella and systematic reviews continue to support structured exercise as an effective way to lower liver fat. That means a daily brisk walk is not just good for you in a vague sense. It is part of a pattern that directly targets the thing the title is about: excess fat in the liver. The third reason is one people rarely connect back to: the liver: sitting. One of the most underrated parts of fatty liver management is not only formal exercise, but also reducing inactivity. The Cornwall NHS Fatty Liver leaflet notes that decreasing overall inactive time and breaking up inactivity through the day is a useful treatment strategy for all people with NAFLD. And recent reviews frame physical activity as a main treatment alongside diet and weight management. And this is why a daily walk works so well as a reset habit. It is not just exercise. It is an interruption to the exact inactivity pattern that often drives fatty liver forward. Many people with MASLD do not need a perfect gym plan to start. They need one repeated non-negotiable movement habit that changes the day's metabolic direction. Now I want to be careful here because this is where titles can become misleading. 7 days is not enough to reverse fatty liver in the literal sense. Liver fat reduction and fibrosis improvement usually take longer than that, and official guidance still emphasizes sustained lifestyle change, not quick fixes. But 7 days is enough to reset behavior, improve post-meal handling, reduce sedentary time, and start building the weekly activity volume that guidelines recommend. So if I were translating the title into the most medically honest version possible, it would sound like this. A 7-day reset for fatty liver is not a cure, but a week of daily brisk walking may matter more than many people think, because exercise is a cornerstone therapy that can improve liver fat and metabolism even before big weight loss happens. This is also why I would not make the daily habit something complicated. Not a biohack, not a supplement stack, not a punishing workout routine that collapses by day 3. The strongest version is walk briskly every day for 20 to 30 minutes. If someone wants to be even smarter, they can place that walk after meals, especially after dinner, because that helps tackle the post-meal glucose and inactivity pattern many people with MASLD are living in. The broader exercise literature supports moderate intensity activity targets in this range, and brisk walking fits that moderate category for many adults. There is another reason this matters more after 50 than people expect. MASLD is often silent, and many people do not know they have it until blood work or imaging picks it up. NIDDK calls NAFLD/MASLD a silent disease with few or no symptoms in many cases. That makes daily habits more important, not less, because the body may be accumulating liver fat long before it feels sick enough to force action. And this is where people make the biggest mistake. They wait for motivation. They wait until the lab numbers are worse. They wait until the doctor says fibrosis. They wait until the belly is more obvious. But the liver problem is often already building during that waiting period. That is why the right daily habit matters. It gives the person something practical to do before the disease gets louder. Now, none of this means diet does not matter. It does. NIDDK and NICE Link guidance both emphasize diet, weight management, and Mediterranean-style patterns as important in MASLD. But the title is pointing at something viewers usually underrate. Movement is not a side note. In some people, it may be the most neglected part of the treatment plan. And that is why I actually like this title once it is cleaned up medically. Because it corrects a common misunderstanding. People often think fatty liver is a food-only disease. It is not. It is also an inactivity disease, an insulin resistance disease, and a metabolic traffic jam disease. The daily walk matters because it hits all of those at once. So what might someone notice in 7 days? Not a miraculous scan reversal, but they may notice less post-meal heaviness, better energy, a little less stiffness from sitting, and the psychological shift that comes from feeling like they are finally doing something that directly targets the liver problem. The deeper liver changes take longer, but the behavioral reset starts immediately, and this is where the story really changes. Once a person proves to themselves that they can walk every day for a week, the habit becomes easier to extend. 1 week becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and that is where the clinically meaningful change begins to accumulate. Exercise reviews in MASLD are not really telling us that one heroic effort wins. They are telling us that consistent movement works. So if I had to reduce this whole script to one line, it would be this. A 7-day reset for fatty liver is not about finding a miracle food. It is about proving to your liver every single day that your body is no longer choosing stillness. And the one daily habit that best fits that message is simple enough that most people overlook it. Walk briskly every day.